Okay, well, can you hear me? Is this thing on? Is anybody out there listening? Welcome to the first ever episode of Okay And you're wondering, Leah, what are you doing? What is this podcast? What is this about? Well, I'm here to show you and tell you today. Now, let me say this. This podcast is a long time coming. There are a lot of people who have followed me for a long time and said I needed a podcast. And I definitely ran away from it. I definitely was not trying to do a podcast, especially after having a podcast that I had to stop abruptly. It made me not want to do it again. But I realized that there are stories, there are things that have happened to me that I want to share and I want to be transparent about that people had no idea what was going on. I think over the last 2 years, things have switched a lot for me. If you were following me, obviously, before I moved to Columbus, I was doing very well in my career. I was on TV locally in DC and nationally on MSNBC and Fox Soul. I was on the radio in DC. I was hosting for Amazon. I was doing a lot of things. Obviously, I was going viral and people were becoming very familiar with my brand. And when I came to Columbus, I was hoping for a fresh start. And things didn't go as planned, if I'm being 100% honest. And so if you were watching me then and you kind of thought, what happened to Leah? Why did it stop? Why did things slow down? This podcast is kind of my journey over the last 2 years, and it'll highlight different things that I've dealt with, that I've experienced, that I'm trying to heal from, or that I'm trying to grow from. And I felt like in this first episode, it was important for me to give you a timeline of all of the things that really happened so we can clear it up. And then when we start getting into these guest episodes, because we have some amazing guests, then you understand why these topics are important to me. So, shall we begin? Got my cue cards if you're watching on YouTube. So I moved to Columbus, Ohio. I got the job to be on air at a radio station here in 2023. And again, that's coming off of all of this viral success. It's coming off of my career blossoming. It's coming off of me being featured on all these platforms for these viral interviews. And then I finally get this job, which I had been really trying to get out of DC. I felt like that environment was starting to become toxic for me. So I was like, okay, I need a fresh start. And I felt like, Columbus was God's sign for me to do that. So I found out in February of 2023 that I got the job. So I immediately went into plan mode, right? I do have a condo in Maryland, and so I was like, okay, I gotta renovate it. I gotta get all these things done to get my place ready to rent it out because I have to go to Columbus, right? So a friend referred a guy to come do my floors. The floors I had was pretty old carpet. Again, it was cool for me, but to rent out, I knew I needed to upgrade it. So I said, okay, I'll pay for it. Well, I contacted a guy to do epoxy flooring, which is like that pretty marble, like kind of endless floor. Some people put it in their garages. Well, my friend suggested him to me, and in February, he got to work. Okay, so February 2023, packed up my life, started the journey to get the floors done. Okay, and then in March 21st was the day that I started at my new job, 2023. Okay, now as time was going, the floors, something happened. The floors did not cure. I don't know what, to this day, I still really don't know, other than maybe just lack of experience, but the floors didn't dry. So, at this point, I'm staying at a friend's house, but I am trying to figure out why my floors don't dry. I probably should have taken a week. We're 2 weeks out. Floors, I went in and started tracking my feet prints all over my floor. So I was told the wrong time to go on the floor, go inside my house. They said, or the person said, um, oh, we'll come back and fix it. Cool. So I moved to Columbus. I moved, they put me inside some type of housing until I can get my place right. Now, at this point, I was going to try to find a condo here. So I had come in February looking for a place and found a place and got a place that I was going to try to get. So I'm thinking, okay, once this month of housing ends that my job is providing, I'll just move into the place that I was looking to go. Well, um, month happens, and at the end of March, I find out that there's no way for me to close on this place and that I am officially homeless because the the corporate housing ended and I didn't have a place to go. So I stayed at an extended stay. And of course, I don't know nothing about Columbus. So I just go stay in, an extended stay close to my job. Well, the job that I worked, the building, like one way was really nice and residential. The other way was real ghetto and had a lot going on. Okay. So I moved into this extended stay that was quite questionable, but I just had all this stuff. I just moved in. I didn't know, and there was nobody to tell me here. Right. So I'm staying in this extended stay. I'm kind of uncomfortable. I have to now start to look for apartments, which I didn't do in the beginning because I thought I was going to get this place. So, long story short, staying in an extended stay. Now, this is about a month now that I've been in Columbus. 1 month, 30 days. A coworker and I decide to go to a Jonathan McReynolds concert, which was really good, by the way. And we decided to get food after the concert. This was on a Wednesday night. It just like literally vividly in my head. We decide to stop at a local bar and restaurant. And when we get to this bar, it's packed. I mean, apparently they do this like R&B night this day. It's really packed. And I'm like, I go inside. I'm like, you know what? I could do Columbus if this is the vibe it's given. Okay, I can see myself here. So we go inside. It's crowded. We order some food, and there's no tables to sit inside. So there was tables to sit outside. So we put our order in. We sit outside, and we decide to go to the seating area, and we're just chilling. And I mean, they take a very long time with the food. Like, I'm not gonna lie. We probably got there around like 10, and around 11:45, we probably just got our food. It was almost 2 hours until we got our food. But it was a lot of people there, so we're just socializing, being cool. My coworker and there was another guy who would come and sit down with us, and so we're all just sitting there talking, having a great night. And I remember there was a lot of homeless people who kind of kept walking up and down this alley that we were sitting in. And I was joking with my coworker, and I said, "We got to keep our head on a swivel because you never know when something's gonna pop off. We got to be hyper vigilant." Just joking, because they were kind of walking up on us, and it was we in the alley in the middle of the night, regardless of if it's an establishment or not. So we finally get our food. The food is really hot, so we're sitting there and we're enjoying our food. Now, by this point, everybody had kind of fizzled out. There was a pretty large crowd outside because you could hear the music from inside outside. So there was a pretty large crowd. But at the point we got our food, it kind of died down. It was kind of just myself, my coworker, and the guy who was sitting at the table with us. Everybody else was kind of going in and out consistently. And then there was one guy who was outside as well as security. So we're all just talking, and all of a sudden we hear boom. We hear a gun go off. So of course, the instincts of every Black person, you hear a gun, you run. So my coworker and I, we ran the opposite way of the situation, while the guy who had just sat down with us, he ran inside. And so we run and we kind of hide. We're hiding behind this like pillars thing, this big. It was big. It covered both of our bodies, but we're hiding behind it, kind of trying to look and see what is taking place. Now, only one shot went off. So keep in mind, we're kind of like, oh, I don't know what happens. Now, we saw the group of men where the gunshot sound came from, but all of them ran off. So we just thought maybe someone tried to shoot and missed. But, at that point when we're hiding and kind of trying to peek, we don't really understand, what's going on. We're just kind of like, okay, whatever. So we are standing there, and all of a sudden there's a young man in white, and we see him, and we kind of see blood. We're starting to see like blood on his shirt. So we're like, oh God, he got hit, right? And so he's a little disoriented, and he walks up to the establishment, and he's trying to get in, I guess. And the security, I guess, is not trying to let him in because they're pushing him back. He's trying to push himself in. They're pushing him back. Like, I guess they didn't want whatever was going on out there to come inside to the restaurant, right? And so, everybody's just kind of standing there, and now there's like a lot of blood. So, I yell. I'm like, help him. Somebody help him. Someone call 911. So when I yelled that, the guy who's bleeding pulls out his phone, but he just kind of standing there rocking. So it's clear to me he's injured, right? He's been shot. I don't know where he's been shot, but it's clear, right? So at this point, security is kind of talking to him. They're just kind of standing there. And I'm like, someone needs to call the police. Because at this point, I don't even know where I am. I couldn't call the police and help myself if I wanted to. I don't even really know the name of the establishment I'm at. I just went with my coworker after a work event, So in that moment, that's the start of where I started to really feel unsafe in Columbus, because it was clear to me, like, you don't know where you're at, but you also don't know your surroundings. You don't know enough about where you're at. And so my coworker was like, okay, I'm about to get our stuff and we about to go. So my coworker kind of collects our stuff and meets me back where we were, because I left my purse, I left everything. So he picks up all our stuff, my food, blah blah blah, and we get to walking. So we're walking, and we're kind of standing around because we're just like, this is crazy. We were kind of trying to see if the police were going to come, like what was going to happen. So we're standing kind of at the end of that alley. And then, people were coming out. It's like, it's so crazy. Someone got shot. He's sitting out there. He got shot. And we're like, yeah, I know. We saw it. It's crazy, right? So, we kind of start hearing police sirens. And we were like, all right, let's go. It's time to go. So it was so weird because that whole night there had been so many people outside, but in this one moment there was like nobody outside. It was weird, but we decided to start walking to my coworker's car because he drove us there. And as we're walking, we start hearing it happens so fast and yet so slow that I feel like it's like hard for me to kind of recollect. But we were walking next to each other. My coworker was on my right, I'm on the left, and we're walking, and all of a sudden we start hearing foot. We start hearing running, right? And so instinctually, as Black folk, we both start running, but it happened so fast because we both start running, and I remember looking over my right shoulder, and I see my coworker across the street. It was so quick, so quick. I look over and I see him across the street, and I look next to me, and the man who was shot, blood all over his shirt, is right next to me. And so he and I are running together, and I can't really like specify the look on his face, but he looked scared. And he was running, and I was running. And I remember dropping everything. I dropped my purse, my keys, my food that I waited 2 hours for. Fat girl note. But I dropped everything to start running because I was like, if he's scared, then I should be scared, right? Someone just shot him, right? So me and this boy are running down this block together, and my coworker is yelling at the top of his lungs, stop running, stop running. And I remember there was nothing around me for me to hide. And so I thought to myself, I have to keep running until I get to where I'm not next to him. Because if I stop, they're going to shoot me. If I turn around, I'm going to get shot. At that point, I felt like when we were running and my coworker was yelling, I had so many conversations with God in my head about if I was going to live. I said to myself, God, I don't want to die like this. Then I said, God, if I survive, let me survive and still be able to live my life normal. Like, please don't let me be in a wheelchair, or please don't let me, suffer if this is how I have to go. Like, God, don't let this be the moment that I was supposed to change my life and die next to this boy going to get a burger in Columbus, Ohio. Those were my thoughts in that moment, because I thought to myself, there's no way. I'm not going to get shot. We're right next to each other. And he looked so scared. And there was blood coming down his face and his body, and he was covered. And I was like, God, I'm going to die. Like, I never in my life thought this is going to be it for me. Like, I'm going to get shot and be killed. And so we ran until we got to the end of the block. And he went one way and I went the other way. And I couldn't even breathe because of the adrenaline, but also running so hard. I hadn't sprinted in my life in a long time, okay? I could barely breathe. And once he got away from me, I turned around and there was nobody behind us. And so I was confused at like what really happened. And so once we kind of separated, my coworker, I ran over to my coworker, and it was just like God's timing that we saw a ambulance and a police car. So we told them to go over to him because he was, obviously shot. And so the police and all of them head that way. And, I was like, this is insane. And what we later found out is the guy or the person who shot him was coming to finish the job. And the only reason he didn't start shooting is because my coworker was yelling and making a scene. It made people start paying attention. So when the boy was running, he was running from him. He had every intention to shoot and kill him, because the next day we looked at the news report and the boy shot him in the head the first time. He was shot between his eyes. That man was not supposed to survive the initial shot, let alone be able to walk, run, and get himself to safety. And I don't know what caused this confrontation or what happened, but I do know that right before that guy who was shot gave a homeless man $20. And that was like a solidifying moment for me that like God is real, and then like God knows our heart, because I don't know what that man has ever done, but one of the last things you do before you get shot in the head was give someone on the street money. Is character, whether he's a perfect person or not. So for me, like, that was just a defining moment for Columbus. And I'm pretty sure had that man died in front of me, I probably would have left Columbus. I'd have probably packed my shit up and been on my way. And that probably was foreshadowing of what was to die in the future along the way. But that moment, um, it really traumatized me. I couldn't sleep that night thinking about me pleading to God for my life. And so that was an instrumental moment for me moving to Columbus, and kind of the start of a lot of BS. So I have cue cards because I have to keep notes of all the crazy stuff that has happened. That's just the icing. And my family's probably going to watch this, because I didn't even tell my family, because I didn't want them to worry about a decision I felt like I had made. I didn't want my mom to be like, no, I can't come visit you. Or I didn't want people to think that I felt negatively about Columbus when I just moved here, but I was definitely um, traumatized by that whole experience. So that happens 30 days, 30 days after I had just got to Columbus. Then, I found out that the condo just wasn't going to work. The situation wasn't going to work here, and I was going to have to find another place to stay. So in May of 2023, the floor still didn't dry. So now I'm still going back and forth with this man. I'm trying to find a tenant. So I'm paying an extended stay here, soon to be rent here, and I'm paying my condo in DC because I can't get a tenant because my floors won't dry. And then in May is when everything changed with the job. So May, I was approached about doing and covering Essence Fest. A friend had reached out to me and said that they wanted more Black women coverage at Essence Fest. And so I thought this was a great time to bring some of the opportunities that I receive outside of radio to radio, especially now that I had a show and now that I felt like I was in an environment where I was supported. I'm using air quotes. So I bring this situation to, a boss, my boss at the time, and the energy was very, nah, we'll see. They don't like to spend money, but we'll see. And I was like, okay, well, we'll see. So that's when we first kind of inquired. We applied for the press pass. Then in June, things started to get a little weird. I wasn't really hearing back about Essence, and I was kind of like, hey, what are we doing? My name is kind of on this. I've kind of, given this opportunity to my job, in spite of I could have done it myself, but I'm trying to, create this thing. And it just felt like the ball wasn't moving. So I started going to, upper management and trying to figure out, how do we make this thing work? Long story short, I found a way to make it work. I guess that way didn't necessarily agree with my boss. He kind of felt like I was going over him at the time. And so, long story short, my boss and I got into a very heated conversation. It wasn't heated on my end; it was all that person. But they talked to me real crazy. To make a long story short, and it was not appropriate on any level. A lot of things fly in media that probably shouldn't, with the way people speak to people, especially in Black media. But the way I was spoken to, I wouldn't even let a stranger off the street speak to me. And so that situation created a hostile work environment for me. It was instantly hostile. It went from I'm the best thing on earth to I hate your guts. And anything you do, I'm going to stop and I'm going to make sure that you don't do it. And so obviously with that situation, I went back and forth about whether I should report it or whether I should say anything, because I have been in situations in media as a Black woman where I have said something to HR, where I have gone to the company's higher ups and got looked at like, oh, well, figure it out. And so I was just like, I don't know what I should do in order to ensure that like I feel safe. Luckily, I did have an upper manager who was a woman who did support me through that, and there was some recourse in that situation, but my boss was still my boss. So of course it gets super super awkward. So we go to Essence, and things just end up getting worse. Things, it gets very hostile. Of course, no boss likes to get told play nice. So of course they can't be outwardly crazy, but of course they're gonna do little things. They're gonna, make sure you don't get to host stuff, and they're not gonna give you opportunities, and they're not gonna give you tickets, and they're gonna pass on opportunities for you to do things that it's a no-brainer that you should do. And it was becoming increasingly obvious to me, and it was stressing me the fuck out. It was. I was so stressed out because I just thought, even though DC stressed me out and I wanted to leave DC for a toxic work environment, that was a toxic environment I knew. Think of moving your whole life, coming here, staying in an extended stay, seeing somebody get shot in the head, and then moving for your career, and then it seems like your career stops. That was my experience. And so I was grieving a lot of things by this point. I was grieving the idea that this is not what maybe I thought it was going to be. I was grieving the fact that, I just moved my whole life. I was grieving the previous career I had. That was great. It wasn't perfect, but I was able to do what I needed to do and get what I needed to get out of it. I was still not really processing at this point because I didn't have no damn therapist, seeing this boy get shot and what that emotionally did to me. I was grieving so much, and it stressed me out. It stressed me out so much. And at the time, I used to just think that like whenever I got stressed, my periods would just, I would fluctuate, right? Like, there was one time I got super stressed about a radio job, and my period lasted for like 12 days. And I was like, yo, stress is like, when I get stressed, my body feels it, right? That's just what I thought. So, July was Essence Fest and all that drama had just happened. August, my body is feeling all of that. So then my period is super painful. Like I couldn't get out of bed. My head is hurting. I can't like do anything without feeling like I'm gonna pass out. Like all these things are going on, and I'm just thinking, oh, something. I'm just stressed. So August, I don't think anything of it. Then September happens, and again, I feel that way again, and I'm like, something's not right, right? So I'm like, I need to find an OBGYN. So October, I'm like, I'm calling around and I'm like, can I find anybody? But all of these doctors have super long waits. So I finally found someone who could see me in October. And she was an inexperienced doctor, in my opinion. She was really new, and she definitely wasn't helping me fill the voids that I needed. Because once it started to get super painful, I remembered that I had a cyst um, that I had seen in an ultrasound. So I was like, maybe it's the cyst. Maybe the cyst has just gotten so big. Now it's kind of affecting me. I had called a homegirl and was like, hey, you have cysts. Like, is this your experience? And she was like, oh, girl, I don't know about that. Go see a doctor. So we see the OBGYN, we get the ultrasound, and we find out that yes, I have a large cyst, about 7 centimeters on the ultrasound. So we decide to schedule a surgery for the top of the year. So I was like, okay, I think I can make it through the top of the year. So at this point, I'm just like, it's been a year, right? And my birthday's in November. So I always knew, and I always told myself on my 30th birthday that I would go to Africa. I was for my 30th birthday in Africa because that was something that Howard made me want to do. I just wanted to be in the motherland and be of my own roots on my 30th birthday. So I was supposed to go with a friend. That friend didn't even tell me that they didn't have a passport, so it didn't matter. But whatever. We were supposed to go to Ghana together, and they couldn't go. So after just all of the shit that had happened, I was like, fuck it. I'm gonna just go to Ghana. I'm gonna go to Ghana. Go to Ghana by myself. Fuck it. So I go to Ghana, and Ghana was the most beautiful experience that I've had in a long time. There's just something about being in Africa that makes Africa just the best place on earth to me. Like, I want to live in Africa at some point. It's just so beautiful to be connected with like our roots. And so I went to Africa, child, fell in love with a Ghanaian man. That's another story for another episode. But had my eat, pray, love. Stella got her groove back, Monique fat girl moment with this man who treated me extremely well at the time. And so, Africa was what my soul needed. And so once I got back from Africa, because I stayed there through December, I said, you know what? I don't give a damn. I don't give a damn about none of this. I'm going to go and do this job and just be here because I don't have the energy after the year I've had to deal with a hating boss, a small minded group, and to feel like I'm not as talented as I am. So you know what? I said, Leah, you got one more year. Fake it till you make it, sister. Don't even put all that effort in. Just sit back and if they want to ignore you, play ball, sis. It's their world, you living in it. So we get through December and we get to January of 24. Now, January of 24, I was like, you know what? This year, I'm not going to stress. I'm not going to be stressed. We just going to do what we going to do, okay? So I get my surgery at the end of January to get the cyst removed. This cyst was hanging off of my fallopian tube, which if you see a real picture of a fallopian tube, it's literally like a string. So this big 10 centimeter ball is hanging off my fallopian tubes, hence why it was so painful. And it was tearing me up. And that surgery was really, really hard to recover from. I can't imagine having a C-section because I didn't even get a C-section. And I felt like it took me 2 weeks to even feel remotely like myself again. It was really hard to recover from. And I don't know because they had to do extra incisions because of how big it was. I'm not sure if that's why or what. But in this surgery, they also diagnosed me with endometriosis and PCOS. So that was kind of unnerving for me because obviously infertility and PCOS and endometriosis is very high. And I am 50-50 on the kids, but I don't like my choice being taken away. So that was something that I had to grieve as well, that maybe having kids naturally might not be my testimony. So I've never actively tried either. So who knows? But that's also a real reality of the disease, endometriosis, and the hormonal issue that I have with PCOS. So we will see. So, January was a long month for me. My mom had come up to help me, with the surgery, post surgery. My mom came and then she goes home. And then a week later, she calls me and was like, hey, I have cancer. And I was like, God, I'm trying to hold on. I think that January, February moment for me was where like I definitely had like a mental breakdown because it had been a whole year of just shit. And I was trying to tell myself after Ghana that like I could hang on. I could make it work. I could not give a damn and just go on and choose peace. But there was no peace to be found. My mom getting diagnosed with breast cancer was like the icing on the depression, repression cake that I had. I had been repressing all of my emotions and how I felt at large. And my mom getting cancer was just kind of the final thing. I had so many thoughts about how I just couldn't support her from Columbus and if I should just quit the job altogether and go down there. I didn't know if this would be a long cancer journey. I didn't know if it would be a short one. They felt like they were able to get all of the cancer from the surgery that she had. And so she still decided to do radiation, but I was nervous. My mom is older, so I was like, I don't know what kind of toll this will take on her. And so it just was so stressful trying to support my parent who is by herself and I'm her only child from Columbus while she is getting treatments for cancer. It just was difficult for me to um, reckon with how do I support her and I'm not there, right? So then we get to March, and of course, nobody in my job knows that this is going on. I didn't tell many people. It was probably one handful of people, other than my family, who knew that my mom was diagnosed with cancer and actively seeking cancer treatments because I just couldn't, I didn't want people to be nice to me just because they felt bad. I didn't want my boss, who was making my life hell, to have an excuse to be nice all of a sudden. No, keep that same energy. I'm going to keep that same energy ass bitch. Keep that same fucking energy. I don't care. I'm not doing it with you because if your intentions were to be nasty to me, then keep it that way. I don't want you to change up because you feel bad about my mom. Don't feel bad. We're going to be good over here. And we are and we were. Amen. Okay. So around April, my mom finishes her cancer treatment. They, obviously say things are looking good. So we praise God for that. And, that lifted something off of my spirit because I was like, okay. Now, mind you, while all this is going on, my birthday when I was in Ghana, I had announced Plus Paradise. Which was my body positive travel group, which is, let me not say was, is my body positive travel group. And we were planning a trip to Jamaica. So around that summer, I really had to start pushing to get people to sign up because I invested so much money in Plus Paradise. And I was okay with that. But I wanted it to be what I had envisioned it to be so long ago. So in May, we start doing that, right? Then in June, we had another hiccup at the job. There's this large festival at in Columbus, and I'm very cool with the guy who runs it and owns it. And so we decided that we were going to create Aaliyah's Lemonade Lounge at this festival, and it ruffled my bosses ever loving feathers, honey. He was trying his big and baddest and bestest to get me in some type of trouble about that situation. There's more details, but it doesn't even matter. Point being is the hater notch turned up. Because mind you, January, I turned all the efforts down. Because at first, I was going tit for tat with him. Now, not in a petty way, but I was just making sure that anything that I did, I crossed the T's and dot the I's and went about the extra steps. After January, when I was depleted, I said, I'm not doing this with him. I don't even care no more. I'm not going back and forth. I'm not doing all these things. So I had really chilled out. But once that festival hit and they saw that lemonade sign, oh, the haterade, oh, they was sipping it by the gallon. Okay? They were pissed. And let me not say they. He. Okay. So that was that. Then July, I go to Essence again because now, because of all the hubbub the year before, of course I got to go again, and we were able to make it work. But of course that was not supported. And then in July, also my business partner for Plus Paradise decided that they couldn't be a part of it, and so it was difficult because I'm just like, wow, I have spent a lot of money. So in August, I was reckoning with the fact that I was starting a business and going in debt for said business, and a lot of debt by myself in said business. In September, I had the court case with the floors and the situation with the guy. And, I had to represent myself in that situation, which I won. But, it's still not over. But doing court and going back and forth and this whole process taking over a year to just try to get any type of money back for the floor situation was insane and still is insane, still an ongoing process. And then November, I was, planning heavily for Plus Paradise. And, Thanksgiving, my birthday was on Thanksgiving. So we celebrated that. And then in December, Plus Paradise, which might I add, Plus Paradise actually coming to fruition was like one of the highlights for me because I stressed so much about ensuring that I created the space that I advertised. And it was truly magical to see my girls on the trip and be able to see that come to fruition. That was one of the highlights for me of Columbus. I think, with all of the things that have happened since I've been here, I think the quiet time created Plus Paradise. And I know that is also a mission of mine besides media and besides storytelling. I know for a fact that is one of my callings. So that was a highlight for sure. Obviously, we get into 2025, which is where we're at. And I was plotting my exit. I knew when March 2025 came up, I wouldn't renew my contract. But what I didn't plan after fasting and hearing from God that I needed to leave Columbus was that I was going to get laid off before I could exit. So here we are. And the crazy thing is I planned this podcast before I got laid off. So this was something that I felt like God had already placed in me before this situation happened. I think getting laid off even just confirmed that this was something that I needed to do. I know you guys know me for doing interviews. I know you know me for viral stuff, but it was important for me to give you guys content that wasn't just about celebrity tea and talking to celebrities. I know that like I'm gifted enough to host conversations that can heal and help people. And I don't want my whole brand to always be about getting some lemonade. And while I'm not leaving the lemonade brand, that's just one component of who I am as a journalist, who I am as a host, and who I am in my gifts. And so I'm hoping that you can take this journey with me. I have incredible guests. I have people who are talking about mother wounds. I have episodes on PCOS and endometriosis and being plus size and anxious anxiety. Like there's so many things that we're going to talk about on this first season of OK and I'm really excited for you guys to join me on the journey. This content is going to help you. It is going to heal you. We are going to find community in this. So I hope you guys join me. I hope you guys will enjoy the podcast. Please share it. If you know someone who could use this information, then please share. I'm so excited. This is a labor of love, and I'm so excited for this content, y'all. Like, I can't explain how excited I am for you guys to see this side of Leah Henry. Not Leah's Lemonade, but Leah Henry. Leah A. Henry. Y'all get to see who I am and really get to dive deeper into my life and what I've been through. So you've just heard a little bit, but in these episodes, I will really dive into some of these moments and tell you what has shaped me into where we are today. So I'm really excited. Make sure you guys download, you subscribe, you share. There's more to come, more great content, amazing guests. And we're going to get into what really happened because, honey, that's the only way to do it. So you're going to hear my story from me, unfiltered, raw, right here on OK. And I can't wait to see y'all on the next episode. And until then, I'll catch you on these internet streets on OK. And